to watch and see.
When you talked before coming here about the consequences for Vladimir Putin being severe, I found that interesting. Severe would be defined by me. India doesn't buy your oil. The European Union won't buy it. And why in the back of my head was I thinking, wait a minute, Donald Trump just delayed possible increase in tariffs on China. Why do I think that probably President Trump was thinking ahead that maybe if you had to, that would have been part of the consequences?
Well, because of what happened today, I think I don't have to think about that. Now, I may have to think about it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something, but we don't have to think about that right now. I think the meeting went very well.
I know part of what the administration has done has tried to make it tougher for Russia to be able to sell its oil. It cracked down pretty tough on India, which is importing a lot of Russian oil, but not so much when it comes to China. Is China in the wrong for importing so much Russian oil as well? I think they import just as much as India does.
Oh, well, let's go back and look at the history, though, Becky. And look, China importing it is suboptimal. But if you go back and look pre-22, pre-invasion, 13% of China's oil was already coming from Russia. Now it's 16%. So China has a diversified input of their oil. If you go back and look now, I believe India had less than 1% of their oil, 1%, and now I believe it's up to 42%. So wow. India is just profiteering, or they are just profiteering. They are reselling. They've made $16 billion in excess profits, some of the richest families in India. So this is a completely different thing. Like this Indian, what I would call the Indian arbitrage, buying cheap Russian oil, reselling it as product, has just sprung up during the war, which is unacceptable.
That Putin comes to this table maybe in an economic pinch, and that maybe the things you've already done have put him in an economic pitch. Is there an economic side to this, as Russia hoping to open up to the world?
Well, he lost an oil client, so to speak, which is India, which was doing about 40% of the oil. China, as you know, is doing a lot. And others, I have another few countries. And if I did what's called a secondary sanction or a secondary tariff, it would be, very devastating from their standpoint. If I have to do it, I'll do it. Maybe I won't have to do it.